Let's kick off this explainer by addressing the absolute biggest paradox we're staring down heading into 2026. Big tech is dropping hundreds of billions of dollars on AI, right? But at the exact same time, they are laying off tens of thousands of workers.
So, you really have to ask yourself, why? Why is there this massive disconnect? How on earth can these companies be reporting insanely strong revenues and record infrastructure investments while simultaneously executing these brutal corporate workforce reductions?
The tension here is honestly just wild. On one side of the equation, tech giants. We're talking Meta, Amazon, Microsoft, Alphabet. They're expected to pour a staggering $325 billion into physical AI infrastructure next year alone. But then, on the flip side, the human cost is really mounting. Companies like Intel are slashing 20,000 jobs, and it's not just to trim the fat. They are fundamentally restructuring to fund these massive AI pivots.
To figure out why the old corporate math is getting completely rewritten by this tech, here's our roadmap. We're going to move through the AI gold rush, the rise of digital labor, the infrastructure bottleneck, the trillion-dollar bubble theory, the deployment gap, and ultimately, what all this means for the future of work.
All right, Section 1, the AI gold rush, redefining corporate math. You see, Wall Street and the tech elite, they don't look at AI as just another software tool anymore. They are straight up treating it as a brand new form of capital.
$400 billion. Let that sink in for a second. That is the massive revenue opportunity that firms like Infosys estimate can be captured globally by 2030. They're going after this by providing AI-first services to enterprise companies that are just absolutely desperate to integrate this new digital capital into their daily workflows.
Moving to Section 2, Rise of Digital Labor, from copilots to agents. This brings up a great question. What exactly are all these companies buying that's actually replacing traditional human labor?
Well, we've rapidly moved way past those simple, passive chatbots from a couple years ago, and we've fully entered the era of agentic AI. We're talking about autonomous digital workers here. These agents can take a goal, use tools, browse the web, and self-correct their own mistakes without you ever having to say a single word. And they operate 24/7. No burnout, no weekend breaks, and zero salaries.
The fundamental shift here is massive. Think about it. In the chatbot era, we had passive copilots. You had to constantly prompt them, and they basically just followed standard operating procedures. But now, in this agentic era, we're dealing with autonomous, self-correcting digital workers running on continuous loops. We have literally shifted from prompt engineering to full-blown system engineering.
Okay, on to Section 3, the infrastructure bottleneck, the physical reality of AI. Because here's the catch with all of this. Manufacturing this infinite digital intelligence, it requires an unbelievable amount of physical power and space.
People talk about AI happening in the cloud, but it is very much a physical infrastructure arms race right down here on Earth. We're actually seeing major tech companies investing heavily in small modular nuclear reactors just to power data centers that are essentially the size of entire cities. Add in the enormous demands for copper, specialized cooling systems because these servers run incredibly hot, and a crazy global race for GPU supply chains, the physical footprint is just staggering.
And the hardware battle behind all this is fierce. Just looking at Q1 of 2025, Intel's server CPU market share dropped to 72.8%, while AMD climbed to nearly 27%. This actually perfectly explains why Intel is so desperately restructuring and cutting those 20,000 jobs we talked about earlier. They have to pivot away from just being a traditional CPU maker to survive as an AI-first infrastructure company.
Section 4, a trillion-dollar bubble, the skeptic's view. Look, with all of this unbelievable capital flowing around, we have to take a step back and objectively examine the critics, the ones asking the hard question. Is this a sustainable economic revolution or just a trillion-dollar bubble waiting to burst? Because there are serious internal doubts, even at the very top. We're seeing enterprise clients actively pausing their Microsoft Copilot rollouts because the AI is occasionally leaking sensitive internal data, like CEO salaries, or generating presentations that executives are complaining look like middle school projects. So the hype is definitely clashing with the messy reality on the ground.
financial experts are also throwing up some major red flags about something called circular investing. This is basically a financial loop where AI giants invest massive sums of money into startups, and then those same startups turn around and use that exact same capital to buy the investors' AI chips or cloud services. It artificially inflates valuations, making critics really question how the industry is going to organically generate that $400 billion in actual annual revenue needed to keep Wall Street happy.
Which brings us to Section 5, bridging the deployment gap. Because bubble or not, the hurdles to actually adopting this tech are super real, and it's creating a massive bottleneck in the corporate world.
Right now, there is a stark contrast between the theoretical potential of AI, the promises of high efficiency and infinite scale, and the actual implementation. Companies are hitting a serious wall of reality. They're facing a lack of skilled workers, massive security risks, and integration nightmares. And that is exactly why a company like Infosys just hired 20,000 graduates. Their specific job is to help banks and large businesses untangle these complex tools and bridge this massive deployment gap.
Finally, Section 6, the future of work, survival, and universal basic wealth. So, what does this monumental shift from human labor to digital labor actually mean for you moving forward?
Well, to survive this corporate restructuring, you really need a strategy. Step 1, you have to practice active learning daily. Honestly, just 15 minutes a day keeping up with AI fundamentals keeps you employable. Step 2, build independent income streams, because AI is radically lowering the barrier to entry for solo entrepreneurs. And Step 3, you need to shift your value from doing to deciding. As AI takes over the execution of everyday tasks, your real value is going to lie in the strategy.
Because of this massive shift, the one-person billion-dollar company is no longer just some sci-fi fantasy, it's practically an inevitability. Venture capitalists are already fundamentally changing how they evaluate startups. They're actually looking at compute-to-revenue ratios instead of headcount now. So a single founder, armed with a fleet of AI agents, genuinely has the leverage to outcompete a massive legacy corporation.
And as AI handles more and more scientific discovery and standard labor, economic thinkers are proposing some wild new models, like universal basic wealth. Instead of just getting a fixed monthly check, this model suggests giving every citizen a dividend or an equity stake in global AI capacity. Imagine humanity sharing the world's 8 quintillion AI tokens. The idea is that this way, humans maintain agency and ownership in a highly automated economy, allowing us to co-create the future together.
It's crazy to look at how fast we've evolved. In 2022, ChatGPT sparked this entire AI gold rush. By 2024, we were fully in the chatbot era, focusing on copilots and prompts. Now here in 2025, we're living through the infrastructure pivot and mass corporate restructuring. And looking ahead to 2026, we are entering the era of agentic AI workforces and sovereign AI clouds, where nations are literally treating localized AI as a matter of absolute national security.
And that leaves us with the ultimate question to close out this explainer. As the cost of intelligence plummets towards zero, will you try to compete against digital labor, or will you use it to build your own future?